I've been bulking for this entire year, and since I've actually been doing it properly by optimizing my training and nutrition, I can honestly say that I've gained so much muscle and I'm in the best shape of my whole life. I know a lot of women especially can be a bit unsure whether bulking's a good idea or not, and you've probably seen all these people online who've tried the old school method of bulking and end up gaining a whole lot more fat than muscle. But one of the biggest mistakes of women who want to look toned is exercising too much and not eating enough. Some people argue that you can just try and build muscle while maintaining your current weight, either through body recomposition or main gaining. But the problem with that approach is you're never going to be able to build as much muscle as you would doing a proper bulking phase. So to give you everything you need to know to get through your entire bulking phase with confidence, we're kicking off a new series. This first video is going to act as your foundational guide, laying out the basics of what lean bulking actually is, why it's more effective than main gaining or dirty bulking. We'll address common fears and misconceptions about bulking, and I'll show you how to set up your calories and your macro goals to build your own science-based bulking plan to gain the most muscle possible while minimizing fat gain. This is going to be a 4-part series, and in the coming videos I'll show you how to build your perfect bulking meal plan, optimize your training strategies for lean muscle growth, and help you understand exactly what to do if any issues come up during your bulk, along with the mistakes you need to avoid and how to actually stop bulking when you reach the end of it. Because no one seems to talk about that part at all, and I have no idea why, because I feel so bad for just leaving you guys hanging at the end of your bulk. So we're not going to do that. Anyway, all of this is to make sure that you have everything you need to go through your entire bulking phase with confidence. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out, and let's jump in. Okay, so I've been lean bulking this whole year, and the results I've got are completely achievable for anyone who takes the right approach. The whole idea of bulking is to put yourself in a calorie surplus so that you're eating more calories than you burn throughout the day. If you do this, then you'll gain weight, and if you bulk in the right way, then most of that weight can come from muscle mass rather than fat mass. Now you might be wondering, what's the point of bulking if you can just recomp to lose fat and build muscle at the same time? Well, the answer is you're never going to be able to build as much muscle as you can during a proper bulking phase if you're just doing the recomp approach. When you're just recomping or main gaining, then there's a really high chance that you're never going to be able to reach your full muscle building potential. That's because your body doesn't naturally prioritize muscle growth because it takes a lot of energy and resources to do. Your body's main goal is survival, so it's going to use the limited energy it has available to fuel important functions like keeping your heart working, making sure your organs have enough glucose, and that your immune system can fight off pathogens. So it's only once your body's allocated energy to doing all of that, then whatever's left over it can use to build muscle or be stored as fat. Naturally, fat storage is an easier process for your body to do than muscle growth, but we'll get into how we can minimize that through our training a bit later on. So yes, you can build some muscle at calorie maintenance or in a caloric deficit, but it's really not going to be optimal if your main goal is muscle growth. In some cases, like if you're starting out really lean, then body recomp could actually be detrimental, because if your body's not getting all the energy it needs just to fuel its regular important processes, then it's not going to be able to build muscle at all. When you're in a surplus, your body knows that starvation isn't going to be a threat to it, so that means it can allocate more energy to the non-essential processes like building muscle. Yes, being in a surplus means that you are more likely to gain fat, but if you're still skeptical about bulking, there've actually been studies that have compared main gaining and bulking over 8 weeks, where all of the participants were doing the same workout plan, and they found the bulking group gained significantly more fat-free mass, and it was actually pretty much all lean tissue. It's important to note that the newer you are to the gym, the easier it's going to be for you to gain fat-free mass, but there are methods we can use to minimize excess fat gain, which we're going to be covering throughout the series. So if our main goal is to build muscle, now we know that bulking is probably a better approach to take than main gaining or recomp. But what kind of bulking? There's 2 different kinds of bulking. There's the traditional dirty bulking approach or lean bulking. The dirty bulking approach is essentially where you eat as much as you can of whatever you want, and it usually results in a massive calorie surplus, even as much as 50 to 100% above maintenance. If you're doing it naturally, then bulking like this is going to cause rapid fat gain. Studies show that you only really need a calorie surplus of 5 to 10% above maintenance to give your body the resources it needs to build new muscle tissue without storing a whole load of excess fat. So before I give you some practical examples on how you can set up your calories and macros, first we're going to go over the pros and cons of dirty bulking versus lean bulking. I think the biggest pro of dirty bulking is that it can be a lot easier to get in eating calorie dense foods. When you're dirty bulking, as crazy as it sounds, you really don't have to think about what foods you put in your body. As long as you're getting the calories in, those could be coming from McDonald's, milkshakes, pizza, whatever the heck you want. And when you're eating this way, most of those foods are naturally lower volume and higher in calories anyway, so it can be a lot easier to get more of those in and be in a bigger calorie surplus. However, after eating foods like that for a certain amount of time, you are going to start to feel absolutely rubbish. You'll likely experience massive spikes and dips in your blood sugar, and the inflammation from these sugary and high processed foods causes fatigue. That means you're going to find it a lot more difficult to push hard in your workouts, which is the whole point, because if you're not training hard in your workouts, you're not going to create the stimulus that you need to build muscle. You'll also have a much faster rate of weight gain, and this can affect your cardiovascular health because your heart won't have as much time to adapt to carrying around more weight. So that's dirty bulking. Clean or lean bulking is where you're going to be in a smaller calorie surplus and mainly choosing less sugary and less processed foods. For lean bulking, the science generally agrees to gain 1 to 2% of your body weight per month if you're a beginner, or 0.5% to 1% of your weight per month if you're more advanced in the gym. Some of the pros of lean bulking are that it's better for blood glucose regulation, it's better for your heart health, it's also better for your gut microbiome because when you're having fewer processed and sugary foods, the little microbes in your gut are going to be more happy about that. And to be honest, lean bulking is just a healthier approach in general. Although the main disadvantage of lean bulking is that it can be a lot harder to get in enough calories when you're eating a cleaner diet. Just think about it, you're going to have to eat a lot more chicken and rice to get the same amount of calories as a slice of pizza. Protein also actually has a higher thermic effect of food, which means that your body burns more calories digesting it than it does carbs or fats. And it also makes you feel fuller for longer, which is great in general, but not so great when you're trying to lean bulk. It's quite common as well, whether you're lean bulking or dirty bulking, that your digestion may have a little bit of trouble. And that's mainly just because of the volume of food that you're consuming. A few things that can really help with this are spacing out your meals so you're having between 3 to 6 meals per day, using more liquid calories, and prioritizing those calorie dense foods. This is also where supplements can be a complete game changer, so we're going to cover that more in the next episode of the series. So how much fat you gain on your bulk mainly depends on the rate of weight gain. So if you're gaining weight too fast, then you're more likely to have a greater amount of fat gain along with the muscle that you're gaining. If you gained 5 kg, you would gain it faster in a dirty bulk, but most of that mass would probably be fat mass. Whereas if you gained the 5 kg doing a lean bulk, it would take you longer to get there, but most of the mass you gained would be lean muscle mass. And the newer you are to lifting, the higher the percentage of lean muscle mass you'll be able to gain. Okay, so I hope we can all agree that lean bulking is the way forward. So just to give you a little example, if you've been training for 2 years and you weigh 60 kg, that means you should gain about 0.3 kg to 0.6 kg per month on your bulk. And that's pretty slow. It means that if you bulk for the whole year like me, then you'll gain about 3.6 kg to 7.2 kg. If you do gain a little faster than this though, you really don't have to worry too much because 1, you still make gains and probably more than you would if you hadn't been bulking. And 2, you can just go on a short cutting phase afterwards and lose the excess fat that you hadn't intended to gain. I don't know about you, but I feel like especially as women, the mindset part of bulking is what tends to hold us back the most. This is definitely something that I also need to remind myself of from time to time. But when we're bulking, nothing is permanent, so whatever you gain at the end of your bulk, you could also lose. And that goes for muscle mass and fat mass. It's also important to note that having some level of body fat is really important for general health and especially for women. In general, women tend to need a higher base level of body fat than men just to support our hormones, like your cycle and all the stuff around that doesn't apply to men. Saying that, gaining excessive amounts of fat, especially at a fast rate, is going to put a lot of stress on your body and your cardiovascular health. So how many calories do you actually need to eat on a lean bulk? We'll just use me as an example to keep things easy. So I maintain my weight at around 2,600 calories. So I eat 2,600 calories a day, and I don't lose weight and I don't gain weight. So if I was starting a lean bulk, I would increase my maintenance calories by 5 to 10% up to 2,800 calories per day. Then I'd adjust those calories up or down depending on whether I was gaining weight too fast or too slow and go from there. If you don't already know your maintenance calories, then you can take a screenshot of the steps on screen now to figure it out for yourself. Or for a more accurate approach, you can download the 2-week free trial of my training and nutrition app, which will calculate your bulking calories and macros for you. And then over the weeks, as your metabolism adapts, it will adjust adjust the calories and macros on your bulk so that you can continue to build muscle and make the most progress. I'll pop the link to that in the description, but let's talk a bit more about macros. Macronutrients, or macros, are your carbs, fats, and proteins. We can optimize our daily macro ratio to help us build the most muscle possible while minimizing fat gain. Here's how to work it out. So first, the science shows that it's good to get around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight each day. Once you've found your protein in grams, multiply it by 4 because there's 4 calories in 1 gram of protein, and that gives you the number of calories that you need that comes from protein. I've already made a more in-depth video on protein, so I'll make sure to link that, but we'll also talk about how to split it up into your different meals in the next video. Next, we'll move on to fats. There's a big group of people that will tell you that a high fat and a low carb diet is the best option. However, I wouldn't really suggest this on a bulk because fat is more easily stored as fat than carbs are stored as fat, because carbs have an intermediate process that they have to go through so that they can be converted into fat, whereas fat is fat initially, so it just gets stored as fat. Essentially, if you're doing a high fat bulk, then you could be putting yourself at a greater risk of gaining more excess fat than if you're having a sort of mid-range of fats. Healthy fats are still crucially important for your heart health, your joint health, your hormones, and so much more, but ideally 20 to 30% of your total calories should come from fats. And then carbs are really easy because whatever calories you have left come from carbs. Another cool thing about carbs, other than they're really good for giving you energy for your workouts, is that they're protein sparing. So it means that basically your body uses the carbs as energy and reserves the protein that you can use to build muscle. I went through a really long phase of a low carb diet and I didn't know this about carbs. Then when I started eating more carbs in my diet, I was able to build muscle easier. So in terms of the nutrition side of things, that's pretty much the basics on how to set up your bulk. Obviously your macros and your calories will change throughout your bulking phase, but we're going to cover that in next week's video, along with how to build your own bulking meal plan and split up your calories and your macros into your different meals throughout the day. But if you want to save yourself the hassle of having to calculate your calories and your macros at the start of your bulk and then throughout your bulk as your metabolism adapts, then just go and download the free trial of my training and nutrition app because it's a great place to start. Make sure to drop any questions you have about bulking in the comments because I really want to make sure that I cover them in the rest of the videos in this series, just so that I can make this series as valuable as possible to you guys. I honestly appreciate you so much, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the rest of this series. And if you want to see the kind of things that I've been eating throughout my lean bulk, then you can watch this What I Eat in a Day video next. See you there!